Well, would you look at that? I feel like it's a bit of a running gag at this point in the channel that whenever I review a Shadow the Hedgehog figure by Jakks Pacific and say, this is it, this is the ultimate Shadow figure for your collection, they decide to outdo themselves and make another ultimate figure. Want to see what I mean? Well, it started off with this guy, the Sonic Prime Shadow, which I got a couple years ago and said was the definitive Shadow. Then we got the movie Shadow, and while this one is movie-specific, it's still pretty good. And then after I made that video, they actually kind of updated this figure with an alternate version on a motorcycle. So they just keep making these nice 6-inch Shadow figures. And then we get what's called the Ultimate Shadow figure. But fitting that the Ultimate Lifeform would get an Ultimate figure. So I figured I owed it to you guys to complete this trilogy and find out which Shadow is truly the ultimate one for your collection. Who am I kidding? You need them all because Jakks Sonic has been doing amazing stuff. It really is the best modern action figure line of action figure collecting. Like seriously, I recommend Jakks Sonic over any other toy line on the market. I have yet to be disappointed by them. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, I swear. I just really like this line. Trust me, who remembers, like, the longtime Sonic fans out there, the days of collecting Tommy Sonic and Jazzwares, right? Looking on websites for any sort of news, pre-orders getting canceled, it was miserable. But this is the Jakks Ultimate Shadow, and as you can see from this beautiful window box, it's a pretty amazing looking figure. So I'm really excited to crack this open and see what's inside. Now, real quick, availability on this dude. This one is available at Target in the United States, but not every Target, only the big Target stores. You know, it used to be simpler because they used to call larger Targets super Targets, or Target Greatland was one down the street from my house. But then they did some weird branding thing where they made all the stores Target. I think that's weird. But if you have a Target in your area that's bigger, that maybe has the deli or the bakery, or just a more expanded selection of stuff, then you would find this guy. Now, at my Target, this figure was actually stocked with the NECA figures and not on the regular Sonic toy aisle. So keep that in mind if you're looking for this. Another place I think you may have some really good luck finding this one is Macy's. Macy's department stores have an excellent and underrated Sonic selection. Actually, if you look behind me at my Jakks collection, pretty much all of the rare ones, Chaos, Methials, the hard-boiled heavies, I got all of those at Macy's department stores. But let's talk about this guy today. I paid $50 for this figure, which is a steep price for not just a Sonic figure, but an action figure in general. You know, one of the things Jakks has been really good about is value. This Sonic Prime figure was only $15 and really blew me away. A couple of years later, when we got Sonic Movie 3 last Christmas, I had assumed that the figures would go up to $20, since the Mario Brothers movie figures, also by Jakks, were $20. But nope, they kept these guys $15 a pop, and you couldn't ask for a better value. But this guy here at $50, that's a steep price, so we're going to find out if it's good. Now, it says here, customize your very own Shadow figure, because he does come with some extra pieces to make up the value. It says Collector's Edition Shadow, and then on the side, there he is with his big wings. That's kind of the main focal point of this figure if you're looking to differentiate him on your shelf. If you have all the other Shadows, this is the only one with the big wings from Shadow Sonic Generations, the new Generations remaster they did. And it says here, Shadow the Hedgehog, with his amazing speed and raw power, Shadow the Hedgehog can control time and space with Chaos Control, or unleash a very powerful explosion with Chaos Blast. A nice little description. Although I can't help but wonder, why that's there, because you're going to know who Shadow is if you're buying this. You know, at least with the regular Sonic line, those appeal to a lot of parents and kids. It's a very kid-friendly toy line. This is one of Jakks' first figures that really seems to be a collector-focused piece, not necessarily for the kids market with the fancy packaging. Look at that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Kind of reminds me of the old Sideshow collectible dolls, if anyone bought those. I had the Jedi Order ones back in the day, but you flip it open, and it's got a nice screen cap here of Shadow from Shadow Sonic Generations, whatever you want to call it. That name is a mouthful. And there is the figure. And you can see him displayed quite nicely. So if you're an inbox collector, I mean, you couldn't ask for better. It's very nice. Not a complete closed box like some of the more recent stuff that Hasbro's been doing. Thank God we have a window. What else? Oh, on the side here, I do want to point out his base. It looks very shiny and gold and ornate right there on the side. But when you flip it open, you can see that it's very dull. It's almost like a tan wash. So that's a little bit disappointing. And I think the pre-order photos online used this prototype. So for everyone that bought this online, that base may be a little bit of a letdown. I actually took a pass on this figure originally. I just thought the price was too steep and I had too many shadows, and it sold out in a minute. But I was in a far off part of town and I saw a different Target, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe they'll have some of the more recent Sonic figures I'm looking for, like Neo Metal. But I found this guy. I was shocked to find him with the NECA figures, but that's enough pontificating about a very nice box. I did not pay $50 for a box. I want a Shadow figure. So we're going to flip the camera around, we're going to open him up, and we're going to compare him to the other Shadows and see what we think. Is the ultimate Lifeform finally getting his ultimate figure? Let's find out. You ever seen a Sonic figure with his own instruction manual? Good lord. We're gonna free Keanu. Okay, here's everything out of the box. First, let's look at Shadow. Well, this is pretty much everything you could ask for a Superposer Shadow. Who remembers the old Superposers figures? Well, that's what this reminds me of. He's got a lot of articulation. Almost like too much articulation. Look at that body. He looks like a straight-up android. So many little cuts, but in Shadow's case, I think this helps because he is, solid black, so the joints kind of blend together. So if you pose him, it shouldn't be too noticeable that he has a lot of joints. Now, as for durability, he feels pretty good, I'm not getting that, Nightmare Before Christmas Jack Skellington feeling where, spindly characters often feel like they're gonna break. No, this guy's got a lot of pull. It's still accompanied definitely by a kid's toy. They still make kids' toys, even though this one is collector quality. What I do like is he's kind of got that plastic shine that a lot of toys have. And sometimes you see collector companies like NECA go for that matte finish look, which feels very fragile and thin. I still do like my toys to have a toy-like quality to them. The head sculpt is amazing. It's really, really solid. It looks just like Shadow. His hand, he's all angry, and you could probably fit a Chaos Emerald there. We'll do an accessory check in a moment. As for the rest of the package, you get his cool base here. Again, not as impressive as those prototype pictures made it to be. But you see he's got his high-speed shoes, and they've got some pegs. And we finally get a use for those pegs that are in Jakks Sonic figures, because the 6-inch figures never get a playset. But in this guy's case, he can stand. And there he is, it looks very, very impressive. Now, if you want him to display a bit better, you get this little Figma-like base here. It really reminds me of something you would see with a premium Bandai figure. And it clicks in the back. So you just kind of click that in. And this is going to allow Shadow to take flight. And in order to do that, he's got his back piece here. His little quills, which pop off. Very easy, though, very rubbery. That was not hard to do at all, thankfully. And then this piece goes in. And then you take these wings, and yes, they are absolutely huge. I'm going to have to zoom out the camera here so that you can see these things, and they just click in. Okay, so that took a little bit more futzing than I thought it would, because those wings are absolutely massive, as you can see. They are huge. This is ridiculous. I'm getting like NECA gargoyles flashbacks from this guy. How am I even gonna display a figure that looks like this? But they do look nice. They look exactly like they do in the game. My only complaint, yeah, it's very, very spindly. So much so that I can't really take flight, no. This stand is really just to help hold him up. I was kind of hoping I would display him in a flight pose, but that is not possible. He's just too weighty in the feet and too much going on with the head and the wings. But, you know, this is one of those figures that you can cross off the list and say, Jakks did it. Like, would I have had a Sonic Shadow Generations figure on my bingo card? No, because typically they have not been doing stuff based off more recent games. And look at this design. It's ridiculous, but it exists. And if you're a Shadow fan, you know, you're dedicated to Shadow, then you need to buy this, right? To get those wings. Now, one last feature I didn't talk about is the hands. Like all modern action figures, the hands pop off, but the way they've done this is really fluid. They're on like their own little mini ball joints, and they just pop off with a little bit of futzing. And I will say, that is one thing I love about this figure, is it still feels like a toy. Like, I would give this to a kid if he was a big Shadow fan. Heck, I would have killed for this as a kid. I was a huge Shadow fan, and the Superposers figures, they were pricey back in the day, and they were rickety. This one's more sturdy. It's more detailed. I would say if you don't have a modern Shadow figure, this is the one to get. It's a direct upgrade from all of the classic ones. And yeah, that $50 price point is a little high, but look at it this way. All the modern Shadow figures are incredibly difficult to find. Like, it doesn't matter what version of Shadow. I'm fixing his stand here because he's already kind of falling off of it. But every version of Shadow is being scalped on the secondhand market. They're all going for like 40 to 50 bucks. So if you're going to get one, why not pay 50 bucks for a quality collector figure? Yeah, I know that sucks. The $15 ones should be available more, but that's up for Jakks to fix. Now, existing fans, let's compare to our Shadows that we have here. Now, the movie version is obviously going to be way different, since it's just a completely different version of the character. But for a Shadow, for your dioramas, if you just want one, the movie one is the one to get. Not only do you get more detail, because it's based off a more realistic design, but you actually get more articulation. In the elbow here, he's got like extra little hinges that help him pose better. This one is really just going to do one thing. He's going to stand there and look cool with those wings. And why is he going to do that? Well, if you have the Prime Shadow, which is pretty tough to get now, this is still going to be your go-to game Shadow. I'm sad to say the Ultimate one is not better than the Prime figure. I just prefer the toony look of Prime more, even if it's not game exactly accurate. Maybe it's my inner love for shows like Sonic Sat I Am and Underground that I just like the toony look of this Shadow a lot more. The eyes being bigger, the quills being more exaggerated, and the little tufts of fur sculpted onto the quill. That's just a level of detail you don't get with this guy who's just plain and kind of boring. Even the color black, if you look at the deluxe one here, it's more of like an off gray rather than an actual black. Which, you know, I've looked at the screenshots of Sonic Generations, and that is what he looks like in the game. So if you're a real, like, game-accurate hawk, then this is the one to get. But if you just like Shadow in general, whether you were a fan of the Archie or the IDW comics, then I'm still going to recommend the Sonic Prime figure over this. Now, my final gripe with this figure is the hands. Let me explain. He does have alternate hands. You have these closed fists, and if you're going to display him in combat with Sonic, that's great. He's also got these hands where he's kind of like doing an evil laugh. They're also great for holding the Chaos Emerald. You can get any of the Chaos Emerald accessories to fit in that palm, which I think is cool. That is how I'm going to display this figure, doing that chaos control. But unfortunately, you're not going to get Shadow to hold a gun. And we all want Shadow to hold a gun because he's cool and edgy, and that's what he's known for. Like, come on, Shadow uses a gun. Sega, don't be scared of this. At least with the Netflix figure, the Prime one, he had this hand, which I remember mentioning in the original review, was suspiciously open, almost like they designed it to hold any gun. And this shadow-colored gun here, which is from a Fortnite figure, it looks amazing. I love the way this one displays, and it just screams that classic, like, GameCube cover art for the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog game. I just filled with nostalgia when I hold this, and I don't quite have the same nostalgia for this deluxe one. Now, modern fans may not care about this because, again, if you like Sonic Shadow Generations, then this is the game model brought to life. Uber articulated, uber detailed, everything you could want and more. But if you do want that classic kind of Archie Comics Shadow, you know, the edgy one from the 2005 game, then the Prime is still the underdog pick. I'm still rooting for this little figure. I think it's such a wonderful, wonderful design. However, overall, in a showdown of all three, I have to give it to Movie Sonic. I get it, it's like comparing apples to oranges. It's really not a fair comparison. But the movie one is just so good, so articulated, and so well priced. If only we could get this figure, you know, in every store. It's selling too well. Jakks Sonic is just too successful to the point where you can't find Shadow at retail. In conclusion, if you find this big dude with his chunky wings in person, I'm still going to recommend it. Yes, the price is steep, but it's a really nice Shadow figure, and pretty much all the Shadow figures go up in value over time. I imagine this guy in a few years will be pretty untouchable. So, yeah, you know, tough pill to swallow at 50 bones, but I'm not disappointed. The more Shadow figures, the merrier. Like, I would just build a whole shelf of Shadow. He is just that cool. And I love having different versions of Shadow, and this gives us yet another version of our favorite... Oh, this one is not standing up. You know, you could say that about the Ultimate one. He does stand well on his own, even with those big wings. But all I can say is, wow. Ow, the edge. But let me know in the comments what Shadow is your favorite. We've had a lot of cool Shadow figures over the years. And does this new one, does it win? Does it take the crown? Is it King Shadow? Will we all hail the ultimate Shadow figure or not? Let me know, and that's all I got for today. Have a happily and edgy ever after. Okay, Team Dark, I found the whereabouts of the hooligans. They were last seen near... What? Shadow? What? Who is that? This is my new girlfriend. What? Who is she? Chell? She's from a city of Gold, Rouge. Gold. I just love Latinas.